All right, now that I got the political stuff out of my system for a little bit, I want to get back into some of the mental health work because it's really important to me, one, on an ongoing basis to optimize for mental health, but also to address some of the challenges that I know millions of people face every day, myself included, with things like anxiety, depression, overthinking, rumination. There's a whole gamut of interesting mental health issues that a lot of people deal with that are hard to talk about. But I think once you put a practical plan in place, you can really start to see massive changes and benefits, outside of the professional route. And I think therapy is a great resource for a lot of people and one of the best tools. So I won't claim to be a professional psychologist or deter people from seeking clinical help, especially on the psychiatric level as well. But for me, there's a certain core 10, 12 things that one can do each day without professional help, just to try to optimize for their mental health, no matter what the starting point is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about things like circadian rhythm, breath work, a fitness routine, nutrition, getting enough rest, our relationships, and having authentic relationships, self love, new experiences, focus, and gratitude. So I think first it's important to consider a daily routine. And I know it's going to be hard and variable for everyone, but I'll just share what has worked for me in the past and what's currently um, the most preferred method of waking up early, getting in some exercise before starting the rest of the day, and then the wind down process as well. So currently, I'm at a 4:15 a.m. alarm. But if you asked me 10 years ago if I would ever do that, I'd say no, that's insane. But I'll explain a little bit why I think that's the optimal time for me right now. But that's when the alarm goes off. I don't always jump right out of bed at 4:15. I'd probably snooze a little bit and toss and turn, but this is the ideal state. 4:30, kiss the wife. That's a very important first step in the day. Make sure we show appreciation and love before the hectic day takes over. And then 4:45, after freshening up in the bathroom, then I'm right at electrolytes. Right now, I'm using Optimum Nutrition's product. It's an amino acid blend or a powder that has magnesium, potassium, some caffeine, green tea extract, L-theanine's in there for focus as well. I think that's a new addition that they put into the mixture. I'll link it in any posting so that there's a product description as well. But the most important thing is getting electrolytes, getting some sort of salt intake combined with magnesium, potassium, because from my understanding, when we sleep, our body's processing a lot of the water, and then we wake up dehydrated. In most cases, when you're younger, this could manifest as uh, yellow pee, and that's how you know that you're dehydrated. If it's white, then you're fully hydrated. But it's hard to wake up, I think, fully hydrated, no matter how much you drink water the day before. And there's some recommendations out there, not to fully dilute yourself right before bed. One of which is so you don't wake up every couple hours. But um, I think the other is just allowing the body to rest and enter a state of sleep. You probably want to shut down the liquid intake about an hour or so before bed. And the reason why I'm up this early is so I can get to the gym at 5. So the local gym here opens at 5. It's in walking distance, which is great. I know not everyone has that luxury, but there was times when I would drive to the gym 20, 30 minutes in the morning, which requires you to wake up a little bit earlier or, start a little bit later. But the most important thing is getting up, getting out, and getting active, before the day starts or before the working day starts. Then I'm back at 6:15 for a shower. Try to get breakfast done by about 6:45 or 7. Sometimes, I'll have work calls that start at 7:45 East Coast time. Now that I'm on the West Coast, so that's another motivating factor is to get all the stuff done before that. Um, but in a general 9 to 5 sense, I think a lot of people could accomplish a lot between the hours of 5 a.m. and let's call it 7 or 8, depending on how far away you live from your workplace. Working remote is obviously a huge benefit, but I understand not everyone has that. Um, but again, the most important thing is getting the endorphins flowing, getting blood flowing, um, getting something done before other people start to put demand on your time. And then, throughout the day, once the coffee and the food is done around 8, I think it's important to start deep work right after that time. Now this is negating the fact that you need natural sunlight. So that's something I left out because right now, when I wake up, it's dark. The sun doesn't come out until about 7 or so, 6:45. So by then, I can't optimize my time around the sun as much as I would like. Ideally, you would get some of that first sunrise, get the light into your eyes. Natural light is better. If you can't get natural light, their ring lights are good as well. Um, but I think the goal there is to simulate the natural circadian rhythm, which is going to sleep at sundown, waking up when the sun comes up. It's from an evolutionary biology perspective, it's more natural for us as humans, although our modern lives and work situations make it really hard. So I understand. Like there was a time when the only sunlight I saw was at lunch or after work, but I think getting it first thing in the morning is really important if possible. Once all that's done, usually I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling energized, motivated, and I have a ton of energy. The cortisol from the morning when you first wake up, it's a natural occurrence, but if you manage it properly and it doesn't get out of hand and take over your thought process, you can use it as fuel to then accomplish tasks, do deep work, whether that's projects, long-term things, some of the most challenging aspects of the day or items on your to-do list. I think that time period, usually it's 4 or 5 hours, where I think humans are probably most optimized for deep intellectual work, whether it's creativity or coding or um, organizing a project, whatever the job is. The brain is really firing on all cylinders during that time, and it's really hard for people to sustain that for more than 6, 7, 8 hours unless they're using performance enhancing drugs or artificial means. But from a purely natural perspective, aim to really get the deep work in around 4 or 5 hours each morning. Then, depending on how the day goes, I'll try to grab lunch, make lunch around 12:30, 1 o'clock. Hopefully, it's as nutritional as possible and healthy as possible. So, I'm looking at grilled chicken, sweet potatoes, brown rice, salads, lots of fruits and veggies. And I stick with that almost every day, Monday through Friday. I know that's a little bit plain and boring, but I don't love cooking. I'm not a great cook. It's not something on the top of my priority list to learn how to make amazing meals. But I've been doing baked chicken for 10 plus years now, and it's easy. I know what I'm doing. I think at least from an edible perspective, it's not groundbreaking stuff. It doesn't taste amazing, and I know that some people would say there's barely any seasoning on it. So yeah, don't expect it to taste great, but I view it as fuel for the day, more so than trying to make a gourmet meal. Then from 1 to 4 or so, I would say it's shallow work. So things that don't require as much intense focus or prolonged focus. But things like following up on emails, circling back, um, one-offs, some of the less important tasks that still have to get done, but are not huge cornerstones or fire drills for that day. And then once the day is complete, anywhere between 4:30, 5 o'clock, and keep in mind this is starting the day around like 7 a.m. Sometimes there'll be calls I'll have to take at 6:15, so the day in theory could start anytime as soon as I wake up. But let's keep it on a 9 to 5 schedule for now. Then it's important to get some fun in if possible. Now this is going to be highly dependent on whether or not you have kids, you're single, married, etc. But I do think it's important to try to make time for something you enjoy each day, whether it's a bike ride, a walk outside, listening to a podcast, reading, whatever it is that gives you some sense of joy. Eventually it'll be playing with kids for us in the near future here, and that will impact the sleep schedule. But it's important to be able to turn off work mode and have a little bit of fun, at least for an hour or two, because we can get easily wrapped up in all the tasks that we have to complete, and then we never make time for enjoyment. Around 6 p.m., I'm looking at dinner and then sometimes socializing, whether that's through a club or a group. Sports, for example, joining a local recreational softball team or something like that is something that I've always kind of got a lot of joy out of. Um, and then 7, I call it the mindless hour. That could be watching sports on TV, watching news, but hopefully not too much because that can negatively impact our emotions as well. But I don't want to be totally shut off from current events in the world. So I'll try to balance how much I watch sports versus news versus a show. I don't watch a lot of shows to begin with. It's hard to get into them and really dedicate time to them. But there's a time and place for forms of entertainment. I just don't think it should dominate our entire lives outside of work. Get into the doom scrolling routines or binge watching 5, 6 episodes every single night. To me, it feels suboptimal, but I know it's easy to do, and I've been there before. And then 8 p.m., now we're starting to shut down again for the night and start to wind down, dimming the lights because you don't want to have all that bright light hitting your system when you're trying to go to sleep. I take magnesium before bed, magnesium glycinate. From what I've read, that helps with preparing the body to produce melatonin, turns off the cortisol receptors so that you are easier to fall asleep when you're ready. And it's beginning the wind down process. Hot showers, research as well, is another good way to wind down at the end of the night. I've always done it at night, but I'd never really understood why it felt good. A lot of this information I'm getting from other podcasts, like Andrew Huberman, for example. So I don't have the scientific backing on the top of my head, but uh, there is some research that suggests that hot showers at night is a good way to tell your body and let your body know that it's time to start going to sleep. I believe it's the warm temperature at first leads to a cooling effect after you're done and dry off. When your body's cold and your brain's telling your body it's time to go to sleep. Conversely, when you wake up in the morning, your body's warm, cortisol is turning you on, it's saying, hey, it's time to get up and go and do something in the world. Um, but yeah, I suggest researching that on your own if you're more interested. And then I'm trying to get in bed by 8:30. Sometimes do some reading, start to relax, kiss the wife goodnight, and then we're sleeping by 9, with the intent of waking up again the next day at 4:15 or so. And this is an ideal state. There's always going to be variations. Depends on what's going on, what plans we have outside of the normal routine. But as a base routine, this is something that has worked pretty well for me. So now let's dive into it deeper. why even wake up early? Like, why go through all that? Why not just wake up 5 minutes before a Zoom call, or an hour before you have to be at work, or 20 minutes before class, or whatever the case is? Um, why torture yourself and wake up at 4:15 to go to the gym? Well, when I was younger, I had a terrible sleep routine. I would stay up until midnight, sometimes later, watching Sports Center, MTV, BET, whatever, whatever mindless entertainment I was into at the ages of 10, 12, 14, 16, whatever. Um, and then when I finally did try to go to sleep, I would turn the TV off and lay down. And then I would be ruminating and thinking about a test the next day, or a game, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, golf match, whatever it was, anticipating how it would perform. In some cases, it's good to visualize performance, but in others, it's excessive worry and perhaps fear of failure, and that's a motivating factor, but it comes with a lot of psychological challenges. One of which is you don't get a great night's sleep. So I would wake up at 7, um, and have to be at class by 8. So I would grab like a banana or a bar, a Pop Tart, and run out the door. And obviously, that's not optimal. um, but that was my pattern for a good decade or two of my life. And I really didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was, just normal because teenagers like to sleep and waking up early sucks. And, you know, that lasted, it persisted throughout undergraduate college. It lasted throughout my first couple jobs. Just trouble getting into the day and always being in a rush. I also didn't recognize it at the time, but there's a ton of stress and anxiety going on during those times. The cortisol rush in the morning that I mentioned, which can be used as a positive thing and a motivating factor. But in this case, I think it was an overdrive. So it just caused a lot of frantic work. I wasn't exactly centered or calm. I would have coffee at some point in the morning once I got to my destination, and that would kind of wake me up, but it would also cause like racing heartbeats. It's just still in a uncontrolled state of mind in the sense of the day was taking control of me. I was not managing and controlling my own day. So yeah, then I would often have a huge meal at lunch, whether it was like some Chipotle type of thing in the cafeteria or sandwich that I made. This depends on if it was high school or college, but I would be so hungry at lunchtime because I didn't have a good breakfast. I ran out the door. I'm running on coffee and a protein bar, banana, and now I'm starving by like 10, 11, 12. So I eat a huge lunch, feel better for a little bit, uh, and then by 3 o'clock or so, I'm crashing because of the lunch that I ate, the carb intensive impact on my body. I remember in undergrad, a specific money and banking class. I would doze off. It was at 2 o'clock every afternoon, and I couldn't stay awake the whole class. It was a 2-hour class, I think, and I would just catch myself nodding and doing the old jump up and uh, sometimes flinch so hard that my friends behind me would laugh. I still got A's in all the classes, but that was looking back, it was not a great way to show up to a 2 o'clock class, even though I was 20, 21 years old. So I've seen worse, but yeah, don't eat a huge carb heavy lunch after no breakfast and expect it to perform well mentally after 2, 3 o'clock. So this really didn't change until probably the age of 27 or so. Uh, and that was when life circumstances really hit me and led to my first significant bout of depression. Originally, first of anxiety, being unable to sleep. So there's a bad breakup, work stress building up. Uh, Life kind of came crashing down all at once. And then a lot of it was just my rumination and worry, constant worry about getting fired, what was going to happen in the future. It was also around the same time when I got really into climate change and climate research. So I was just in a catastrophic mindset, and that put me down a pretty significant, deep hole that took about 6 months to slowly climb out of, where I could get to the point where I started to feel more like myself again. But it really wasn't until COVID in 2019 or so where it all started to come together. And I think a big reason for that was I was pursuing my geoscience master's, which at the time was something I was very passionate about. Like I mentioned, I got into climate change, climate research, viewing it as one of the most important challenges that we face as a species, as society, with the ability to really overturn a lot of our modern industrial culture, things we take for granted, cause a ton of mass migration, war, disease, food insecurity, you name it. Like I was going down all these different rabbit holes. And I still feel very strongly about it today, but I think I'm able to manage it a little bit better mentally rather than just view it all as doom and gloom 24/7. But during this time, so during the COVID era, working from home, everyone's home, not a lot to do past 7, 8 o'clock at night. No more going out late, no more drinking, no bars, no social life, which is kind of sad if you think about it. But at the same time, it was a turning point for me and in my routine, managing my mental health as well. So I started waking up naturally at 3, 4 in the morning, uh, primarily as a function of just going to sleep earlier. There was not much to do. I'd watch TV, fall asleep at 8 or 9. Also getting older, so now I'm into my 30s, early to mid 30s during this time. So the body's naturally slowing down a bit. Needless to say, waking up at 3, 4 a.m., ready to go, nothing's open. What do you do? So I started working out on my own a little bit with bands and weights and going outside for runs. Eventually, the gyms reopened during this time, and then I started going in line at 4:45, waiting for the doors open at 5 a.m. with all the older folks that I had now become a part of their tribe. But when I was younger, I thought it was ridiculous to wake up that early, especially to go work out. That was insane to me. A lot of people told me that I should consider it. There's a lot of benefits to it. I didn't do enough research. I didn't believe them. I thought it was just something people said. It didn't really impact me. But once I did it, I realized the benefits of it. One, it's you accomplish something early in the day before most people are awake, and that's enough psychologically to give you a little pat on the back or a boost. Um, you're able to see the sunrise. If you drive by the beach or any area where you have a decent view. I was lucky during that time. I was in South Florida. The beach is close by. Also lucky now, close to the beach in San Diego. But the point is that you have time to do a little bit of meditation, breath work, appreciation, nature, or just reflection before you're thrust into a bunch of tasks for the day. So we talked about circadian rhythm. I want to talk about breath work for a little bit. That's something that, again, I didn't really believe in it for a while until it became an essential tool. And now it's something I do daily in the gym in between sets. If you give yourself 30 seconds or a minute in between sets, that's plenty of time to take 3 deep breaths. And from what I've researched, the one method that keeps sticking out is a deep 4-second inhale, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 7 seconds. And the point is really just to focus on the breath, not necessarily to to become a monk or to be a professional meditator on the spot, but it's our brains are constantly looking at what's next, what's new, what's coming around the corner, assessing threats, scattered essentially. So it's important that we manage and control that by trying to maintain focus as much as possible. Um, so I'll attempt one now. It might be a little bit awkward, but I've been doing it every morning in between sets at 5 a.m. So let's see what happens here. Feels very long. So 15 seconds when you're breathing in the camera. It's kind of awkward, but I'm a firm believer that it works. It slows down my racing thoughts, helps me to center myself each morning. So big advocate for daily breath work. Um, Give it a shot. It's going to feel weird for a while, but you might look weird in the gym or wherever you are. I don't think any of it matters. All that matters at the end of the day is that you're getting your day started off in an optimal way. There are times when I'm self-conscious and worry that people are staring at me. I'm the weird guy breathing in between sets, but the reality is, like, no one really cares. No one's really looking at you. Most people are focused on themselves. If they do happen to notice you, no one's gonna come up and say, "Hey, what are you doing, you weirdo?" Like, it's most of the things we worry about and tell ourselves, our brains never happen. And this is one example of that. While in the gym, I think it's important to focus on the reps, focus on the session. Don't use the phone at all, if possible, unless there's an emergency. Um, or for me, I just try to use it for music only. I'm not the best at keeping my own rules here, so sometimes I'll check messages and respond, and then I find myself getting lost in the session where now I'm taking a 2 minute break in between sets instead of a 30-second break or a 1 minute break. Try to avoid work emails if you can. I know a lot of people check on their phone all the time, but as soon as you do, now the whole gym session is pretty much mentally compromised because you're going to be thinking about what you have to do and accomplish and what has to get done. Now it's not your hour of sanctuary time. You're already into the rest of the day. From a nutrition standpoint, I think we talked about healthy whole foods, high protein diets, whether it's chicken, beef, fish. For those that are vegetarian, likely means a lot of beans, lentils, nuts, fruits. Can supplement with protein powder. But the important thing is getting routine protein intake every couple hours or so. Um, Obviously, enough hydration, water, electrolytes, staying away from the sweets and carb overloads. That's something I did not do when I was younger. I would eat ice cream, cookies, and candies almost every single night after dinner. And luckily I was super skinny, so I never put on weight from that. But I imagine that a massive amount of sugar at night impacted my sleep. So now I really try to avoid it, although I'll still dabble in a cookie or something after dinner. I try to do it now before 8 o'clock, but I'll never 100% stop eating cookies and ice cream, just more in moderation now. Rest, so getting 8 hours of sleep. I know not everyone needs exactly 8 hours, but play with it, find out what's optimal for you. Sometimes 7 feels optimal for me. Some people need 10, some can function on 4 or 5. I don't think anyone can function on zero sleep, again, unless you have performance enhancing drugs. Aim for, or find out what's optimal for you, and then aim to keep that consistent, and then try to wake up and go to sleep at the same time each day. Baby's on the way. That's going to be almost impossible. I understand that life happens, but this is again an optimal state, and ideal conditions for individual mental health and optimization, not taking into account other factors. Relationships, so forming deep, authentic connections. This is very, very important. Surface level connections could suffice for some period of time, but I think deep down at the core of what we really want is to be seen, heard, and understood for our authentic, true selves. And what that means from a relationship standpoint is that you can talk to your partner or your friend about anything, almost anything, um, without being judged, without feeling like they're going to hold it against you. This gets into the safe space conversation, although I heard it framed in a different way recently, which is this is not a safe space, this is a brave space. Depending on your proclivity, some people think safe space is too soft. Brave implies that we're going to talk about hard things, we are going to challenge each other, and we're going to put a plan in place to make it better or find a long-term solution. But I think having deep, authentic connections where you feel like you are your 100% true self and are loved for that, and purely that, not what you provide, not what how much you make or how big you are, what you've accomplished. Simply just being yourself, and being loved for that is huge. I think a lot of our modern problems probably stem from the fact that we don't show up 100% authentically, which means we never show that side to someone else, which means when we get into a relationship, it's based on false pretenses, and people are showing a version of themselves that is curated. Um, there's a lot of masking, probably due to fear or insecurity. But one of the most important things is truly connecting with people and being vulnerable. Self love, so managing our self talk, questioning automatic negative thoughts. This is something that I deal with all the time. The way my brain's wired, probably because of many factors, one of which is, not knowing my father or meeting him. Um, that imprints a certain way of viewing the world, as the world is dangerous. So I'm always on high alert and anticipating uh, something negative occurring. Um, the way that I can combat that is by questioning those thoughts, asking myself, well, is that true? Is that disaster inevitable? Um, did someone talk behind my back? Is that accurate? Most of the time, again, once you challenge yourself, I think you realize it's not accurate. Those automatic thoughts and rumination can really put a dampening on mood, your ability to get through the day, your energy levels. I know we like to be realistic. We want to be pragmatic, but at the same time, self-love is probably one of the most important things we can do for our own mental health. Even saying I'm proud of you, but say it to yourself after a workout, after something you accomplish. If no one else says it, you have to be proud of yourself to some degree. Just to go back into the what is a healthy ego conversation. Don't want to go full narcissist and say I'm the best at everything. I do no wrong. I'm the king of the world. That seems a bit too much, but yeah, the balance between beating yourself up, motivating yourself, and loving yourself is something that I think about a lot. New experiences, whether that's joining groups, talking to strangers, meeting people, joining a team, going on a hiking trip, just putting ourselves into a new environment where we're forced to meet people and learn about them and their life and their point of view, culture. Um, I think the soul kind of dies a bit when we stop doing that. So that's on the list of the top 10 things as well. Focus on solutions over rumination. That should be clear at this point, but at the end of the day, I think it's great to reflect. I think it's great to understand why we have certain behavioral patterns and thought processes, but then we have to move on to the solution aspect of it. Um, and something that stands out there is, it's not your fault what happened to you when you were a baby or child, whatever. But it is your responsibility now to solve for it and take control of your life. So it's the balance there between um, blaming or figuring out why certain automatic things happen in your life or why you behave a certain way, and then taking the responsibility to make a change and do something about it without beating yourself up. So it's delicate, it's messy, it never ends. It's a lot of back and forth, but you know, at the end of the day, gratitude helps. Gratitude journaling is very common. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for. It might sound silly and stupid at first, but from what I researched, it can rewire our brain circuits to focus on things we're grateful for rather than complaining all the time, ruminating on the things that are bad in life. So another balance there. I'd like to dive into politics and world events and focus on all the crazy negative shit that's happening and try to fix it all. But at the same time, you have to take a step back and be grateful for sunlight, running water, peaceful neighborhood, healthy family, healthy kids. There's a lot to be grateful for. It's easy to lose sight of it. I do it all the time and just try to pull myself back. But I hope this is helpful for somebody. I know it is for me. It's a rant, and I appreciate you listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and talk soon.